Hi, friends. Unfortunately, I'm not able to attend our content meeting on Monday. However, Badger has asked me to put together an overview of what your SLGs or specific learning goals can and should look like as specialist teachers. I'm going to talk briefly about how to craft them, what they are, how to reflect on them, and what other resources you should use throughout the year to ensure that you both craft strong SLGs and then work toward them and then ultimately achieve them. So let's jump in. So what SLGs are, they are goals that we set for ourselves and our students. Because we as special teachers, with the exception of Spanish, we don't have centralized benchmarks. We essentially need to come up with our own benchmarks, our own marking points. So this is going to look different in music. Perhaps music students are working toward music theory, or maybe they're working toward music performance. It's going to look different in gym. If kids are learning skills like stamina or endurance, or if kids are going to work toward learning how to play a specific sport. In my class, I assess both computer skills, but also how kids ultimately learn how to become self-sufficient and work with each other using technology. SLGs are great because they allow us to get creative, whereas other teachers have a scope and sequence. We can essentially come up with one that suits our strengths. As someone who has crafted them for 4 years now, I encourage you to come up with SLGs that do suit your strengths, things that are attainable for you. So crafting a strong SLG, you want to make sure they're manageable, actionable, measurable, attainable, and that they're both content specific and teaching method specific. So basically that means make sure that you can do it. If you're a first year teacher and you have all these ideas of things that might be great for your kids, that's awesome, and shoot toward it, but also realistically think about all your other responsibilities and what is something I can have my kids do. Even now, I'm in my 5th year of teaching, and my SLGs have looked largely the same over the past several years because I know that some of them are attainable. I know they're all attainable. I know I can push every group of kids to reach these goals. That being said, I like to push myself every year and add on something new or add a goal that I think will suit a specific group of students. I'll be honest, I'm still working on coming up with what that new one will be for my kiddos this year. But I know just from the sense that I've gotten from them that they pick up information extremely quickly. And I would love to push them toward writing full out research papers similar to the ones I did with my 10th graders last year, using 7th grade language, but using the same skills that I have my 10th graders use. Anyway, I digress. These are my SLGs from last year. And I just want you to see how I've included both content specific, so goals that relate to students mastering technology skills, but also teaching method specific. I want you to see how they're measurable. They're rooted in data. So every class period, I can collect data that drives toward these goals. How they are actionable, so they're using actionable language that students will be able to achieve them, and also how they are attainable, how they allow for progress over the course of the year. My first SLG is always that students are able to use the home row to type with consistency, efficiency, and accuracy to improve their individual typing pace by 5 words per minute by the end of the semester. The grade should aim to hit the average of 42 words per minute by the end of the semester. So 5 words per minute is very attainable for kids. They usually do hit that by March or April. And again, I've seen that over the course of the year, so I know that's a goal that's attainable for them. 42 words per minute is the average speed that Americans type. That's how I came up with that number. Some classes have gotten there, most of them do not, but it is a good goal to shoot toward and something I push myself toward every year. How is this goal rooted in data? Well, this is my data collector. At the start of every year, I do a diagnostic here for kids, which I'll explain in a minute. But every Monday, my kids come in and take a typing test. And every Monday, every child gets a mark here, whether or not they did it and what their words per minute is. The kids submit these for me on their Google form, and I go through and I double check to make sure that they're not just making up a number. They should have a number that is relatively low, somewhere between 10 and maybe 25. And then I input that and I calculate the averages and the changes of typing over the course of the semester using various functions. Sounds like a lot of work, and it is, but you also have to remember that as a specialist teacher who does not have a benchmark, I don't have any data generator that's going to go and pull what my scores are for my kids, and this is the way that I measure how they grow. So you can see how, let's pick a student who did it every week. Kyrie Lee here was very consistent with his typing. His RP typing 1 average was 38 words per minute, and he actually increased his pace by 7 words from the start of the semester. So I figured all that out, and I do that for every student. At the end of each semester, I will go and I will calculate exactly how they did. So the average for the grade, the difference between their baseline and final, and then the semester word change. So that helps me to tangibly see how they're doing. Of course, I'm doing this myself, so there is room for human error and bias, but overall I found that it's pretty accurate and it does reflect what the kids are doing. So I use this as a good example of how an SLG is measurable, right? It's rooted in data that I am collecting every week and that kids are driving toward. I'm just going to read through my other SLGs briefly so you can see. Another one that kids master every year is that 100% of students are able to use Google Classroom to receive daily and long-term assignment instructions, connect to external links, and access intercurricular resources for their work. By October, all of my kids are using Google Classroom for everything, and they're doing all of these things every day. So I have evidence in their work, in the actions that they're taking to get it done to prove this true. 76% of students are able to demonstrate mastery, 76 or above, of criteria for final portfolios. Of course, our passing rate now is 65. So essentially this means that most of my students have attained mastery on their final portfolio. That looks different every year. Sometimes it's a paper, sometimes it's a Google presentation, but I like this SLG also as an example of that. It's both specific and non-specific, so it's rooted in a percentage of how many kids are able to pass, but I can change this every year to suit whatever portfolio I choose to do. This is an SLG that is not rooted in numbers, but it is measuring a teacher action, a culture, and a way of learning that I strive to create in my room. Students are able to work with peers to use technology to support and enhance intercurricular assignments. Again, every day I try to push my kids to become more self-sufficient. That is evidence in the culture and the way in which my classroom is set up. So that is something that Badger can come in and observe and see, yes, it's being met in this lesson, in this observation, etc. Backtracking briefly, I do want you to pay attention to this SLG. I like this one as an example that essentially we could use in any of our classes. So if you want to be mindful of both having things that are relevant to your content, but also that can be changed every year and applied to every year, so that you're not just having to come up with new SLGs every year. Does that make sense? Cool. So again, here are some examples for you. I highlighted the ones that I spoke about here, which you are able to look at, which are attached in the materials provided to you. And now working toward SLGs, I mentioned daily data collection. I use both a tracker. Let me pull up my one from this year for you. 1 second. Here we go. So this is my tracker that I use every day. Has my kids, their email addresses and passwords conveniently because they always lose them, the date, and I am able to write what the objective is, mark attendance, and then whether or not the kid met that. For middle school, I'll do check, check plus, check minus, just so that they can see that, and then translate that into a score in my grade book. You are free to use whatever grading system works for you, but I do this on paper, which is nice to do in the moment. Then I will transfer that into my my tracker, which I have here, which I can't pull it up right now, but essentially I will transfer that data into my tracker to show how many kids mastered the objective for the day. So collecting that data every day allows you to see, am I making progress toward a specific goal or not? I'm going to pause here because this is going to stop me in 29 seconds, but there will be a part 2, so stay tuned.